People prepare for a Monday lockdown.
We know we're going to be on lockdown for a while, so just soaking up the family time as much as possible.
When I heard about the lockdown yesterday, I had to call Toot Sweet to make sure I could get in.
With the pandemic, that's why we came out here, right? We want to beat the rush, and it's crazy there.
Final outings, rushed appointments, and a mall frenzy, all as the province urges residents to make essential trips only. And
we still have to build these things. There's still going to be people that need them regardless of what the city is saying.
They say no good deed goes unpunished. Why the crafty carpenters behind these makeshift shelters are receiving warnings from the city. And
everybody's trying to be flexible and rethink, how do I do business?
Local producers find ways to innovate as holiday markets close their doors or go online.
This is CBC Saturday News.
Good evening, I'm Marivelle Tarouk. The highest case count ever in the province being reported today, 1,588 cases, beating the previous record set last Saturday. Across the province, Peel region remains the hotspot. It saw 522 new cases reported today, with 450 in Toronto and 153 in York region. And the toll on our healthcare system continues to grow, with 513 people in hospital and 146 in intensive care units. 87 of those are on ventilators. 21 more people died from the virus today, bringing the province's total to almost 3,800 since the start of the pandemic. Now, Toronto and Peel are preparing for a lockdown beginning Monday. As Lorenda Redekop shows us, for some, the pre-lockdown scramble is on.
Looking nothing like a lockdown so far. Toronto's biggest malls extended their hours and started their Black Friday sales early. In a city with more than 400 new cases today, more than 500 next door in Peel. People also rushed out to big box stores, even though they'll remain open with 50% capacity.
With the pandemic, that's why we came out here, right? We want to beat the rush, and it's crazy.
It appears the Premier's warning yesterday may have had the opposite effect.
Avoid panic buying right now. I'm going to repeat that. Please avoid panic buying right now.
One woman didn't even bother getting out of her car.
I'm not going to get in a lineup of that many people and stand outside in this cold just to get regular shopping done.
Souped up winter patios like this one also have to shut down after the weekend.
It's definitely, I feel lucky that we get to go and do this. I'm with my grandma, so we know we're going to be on lockdown for a while.
For her, it's a hard no to weekend shopping.
I have my father who's at high risk, so yeah, it's definitely nerve-wracking. I think the fact that people are probably going to be piling into the malls right now is going to make it 10 times more dangerous.
Many hair salons are extra busy.
When I heard about the lockdown yesterday, I had to call Toot Sweet to make sure I could get in.
She got lucky with only half the normal staff working at a time.
My phone has exploded since this announcement yesterday, and there's nothing we can do.
Businesses are preparing for another tough stretch, 28 days, possibly longer. Some have already shut down since the pandemic started. Many are frustrated that big box stores can stay open.
Our Premier is imploring consumers to buy locally. How can they do that if we're all shut down? It's a huge smack in the face.
The federal government is providing rent assistance, this time directly to businesses, with other supports from the province. Businesses hope it'll be enough to survive, with one more day before the lockdown. Lorenda Redekop, CBC News, Toronto.
2 people are dead after a major crash involving 3 vehicles on the 401 in Mississauga this morning.
Preliminary investigations suggest that 2 of those vehicles were in fact westbound on the 401 when an initial collision occurred, causing those vehicles to in fact cross through the center barrier, making another collision on the eastbound side.
It happened east of Winston Churchill Boulevard just before 9 a.m. A man in his 60s and a woman in her 30s have died. 3 others were injured, including a man in his 30s who was taken to a trauma center with serious injuries. Police say it is not clear what caused the initial collision, but a stretch of Highway 401 will be completely closed for the police investigation. All traffic is being diverted at the Winston Churchill exit and is expected to stay that way until tomorrow morning, with partial lane closures possibly extending through the rest of the weekend. Several days of protests in Ottawa have come to an end. Anti-racism demonstrators were angry after a protest was dispersed overnight. Police arrested 12 people, prompting fellow protesters to gather outside the police station where they were being held. Natalia Goodwin has the details.
This protest has been peaceful, but it has been dynamic. It all started Thursday afternoon when the group blocked off an exit to the major highway here in Ottawa. Now, they remained at that location until early this morning at around 3:30 when police arrived on the scene. Now, Ottawa Police Services, in a press release this morning, said that they gave the protesters several other options of areas to move the protest to. That didn't happen, and 12 people ended up being arrested. Now, after those arrests, the group moved the protest to out in front of police headquarters, and that's where hundreds of supporters came out to join them, and they remained there for the majority of the afternoon. Now, protesters say part of their frustration with these arrests was the timing of it. First of all, in the middle of the night, and also because they were set to meet with members of City Council and the Ottawa Police Board this afternoon. Now, here's a little bit more of what protesters had to say today.
They promised, they said, we're going to have a conversation. You have demands, you have concerns, you have challenges. Let's talk about them. We agreed. We agreed. That means you gave us your word and we gave you ours. They came in the middle of the night at 4 in the morning to arrest our people. People who were peaceful, who weren't doing anything wrong, who didn't even resist arrest, even though they shouldn't have been arrested. So when you break your word, you break your promise, that means you break the community's trust.
Now, the group says they have called off those talks with the city, but they do say that they are planning more action. Natalia Goodwin, CBC News, Ottawa.
This time of year is usually when artisans make some of their biggest profits, selling at craft shows and markets around the GTA. But with most of the region in the red zone and lockdowns, of course, coming Monday, many of those events are being shut down or are going virtual. Dahlia Ashbury spoke with some vendors forced to switch gears.
Holiday shows like Toronto's one-of-a-kind winter show is the place where various artisans from near and far get a chance to sell their products. But with the city preparing for lockdown, Shelley Walsh has to find another way for people to get a taste of her products.
Okay, so a couple boxes, their name and their cell number is on there. They've been advised that they cannot pick up till Monday after 11.
Walsh has been selling her syrups, chutneys, and more at holiday markets like One of a Kind since 2014. She relies heavily on consumer shows like that. It's where she makes up to 70% of her sales for the year.
But the food, you need to taste it. So definitely our sales have drastically reduced.
Walsh now has to think outside the box, including selling her products virtually for the first time.
That means different methods of delivery, like having drop spots, shipping by Canada Post, shipping by Canpar. Those are added fees, not only for myself, but for the consumer.
The one-of-a-kind winter show has been around for more than 45 years, hosting about 800 vendors a year. But since going virtual this year, only about 600 artisans have signed up.
A big learning curve for not only our artisans, but also our customers. We wanted to make sure that we would create a show that's long enough for people to get accustomed to and to learn how to shop it differently.
Pre-COVID, Roy says on average, customers would spend $350 at the show. She is encouraging everyone to continue supporting artisans like Walsh.
They need it. And it feels great to sort of really make a difference in where you choose to invest.
As for Walsh, she remains hopeful during this transition.
People just drive up, they're ordering, they're picking up. Everybody's trying to be flexible and rethink, how do I do business? So it's it's a change, and there will be positive coming from it.
Dahlia Ashry, CBC News, Toronto.
The shutdowns are also impacting pop-up events around the city, including a Christmas-themed bar. Still, the organizers say they're trying to spread holiday cheer for a good cause.
We are physically distanced and doing all the things we can to make sure the only thing spread is the holiday spirit.
People are really looking for a way to experience the holidays, especially when we may not be able to do so in traditional ways. The excitement's been really palpable, but public health comes first, and we fully support that.
Miracle Toronto opened their popular downtown cocktail bar outside this weekend at the Stacked Market. $1 from every drink will be donated to Nellie's Women's Shelter. The space just opened yesterday, and due to the lockdown, they must officially close Sunday, tomorrow at 9 p.m. Okay, let's check in with Christina with the Weather Network for a look at our forecast. Okay, Christina, we got a treat from weather this week, but I don't think we're going to be treated much longer.
Well, Maribel, this short-range weather forecast is all about Sunday. So are you ready for some snow, rain, and mixing? Because that's what's on the way.
That's a lot. Yeah.
Okay, so here are your details for you. Look ahead overnight. If we go hour by hour, we can see here we're still dealing with clear, cool, calm conditions. A lot of that cloud cover building up south of the border. We're feeling that overnight in Canada, but it's not until Sunday morning that, hey, we are waking up to some flurries, some rain, and like I mentioned, a little bit of that mixing too. We're getting a little bit of everything for our Sunday. 3 degrees, a little bit below seasonal. We should be at about 6 degrees for the GTA. So that high pressure has been keeping us clear, cool, and calm. That gets out of our way, and then in comes that low pressure system, and here comes the snow, the rain, and some of that mixing. Here are the details on that. I'm going to spread this out Sunday morning, afternoon, right into your evening. So your Sunday morning, waking up to some flurries for the GTA, snow to start, and that includes for southwestern Ontario too, although we are going to have that quick change to rain in southwestern Ontario. By the time the afternoon comes around, here's your danger zone as far as that mixing goes. South of Highway 401, and then if you happen to be along the lakeshore, we are looking at that rainfall. That wet snow is going to be pushing north. How much snow are we going to see in the GTA? Toronto, just a few centimeters more snow as we move west and north. And as I mentioned, some of that mixing, and I've got more details coming up for you in that long-range forecast.
Okay, we'll see you in a bit. Thanks, Christina.
Okay, thanks.
Toronto police are once again focusing their efforts on stopping drivers who get behind the wheel after drinking alcohol or doing drugs. Officers will be doing spot checks throughout the city for their annual holiday ride program. Toronto police will also be doing drinking and driving enforcement across the city. The annual campaign, which aims to eliminate impaired driving across Toronto, will run until January 2nd. So far this year, Toronto police have held more than 150 ride spot checks and laid more than 1,300 impaired driving charges. An update now to a story that got a lot of attention when CBC Toronto first reported it. We introduced you to a Toronto carpenter last month who is building mobile shelters for people experiencing homelessness. After raising thousands of dollars in donations and supplies from strangers, the city has sent Khalil Seavright a warning letter telling him to stop supplying them to people on city property. But as Angelina King tells us, he's determined to keep the project going.
A stern email from the city isn't stopping Khalil Seavright from working 7 days a week, building these mobile shelters so people experiencing homelessness can stay warm, safe, and isolated during the pandemic.
This is something that can really help someone.
When Seavright started building the shelters in late September, he knew they defied Toronto bylaws. But last week, he got an email from the city asking to discuss a potential partnership. Then a few days later, he got this.
The City of Toronto therefore demands that you immediately cease the production, distribution, supply, and installation.
It goes on to say Seavright's shelters are interfering with the city's work in trying to move people off the streets and into shelters or housing. It also says his shelters may not be legal or safe, but he argues they are safe, outfitted with carbon monoxide detectors and smoke alarms.
At first I was pretty upset about it, and then I was sort of just like collecting myself and realizing, okay, we still have to build these things. There's still gonna be people that need them.
The shelters are 8 feet long, 4 feet wide, and 5 feet high. They come with a window that opens. Eventually, this will be a door with a lock on it.
And I've always opposed this kind of structure or solution. And in the last month, I've done a complete 360 because I really feel the city is failing drastically and that this is a life-saving measure. I consider Khalil a hero.
She says there are at least 1,000 people sleeping outside in Toronto right now. And without more hotel rooms or rent supplements, they need somewhere safe during the pandemic. Steve Wright says his shelters are just that.
It's like it should be considered as a part of the solution instead of something that needs to be removed.
The city didn't respond to requests for comment from CBC News. Its letter did say if the shelters remain on public property, legal action could be taken, and Steve Wright may have to pay for their removal. Now any new shelter he builds will go on private property. So far, churches will have them. So Steve Wright will keep on building to ensure others are safe. Angelina King, CBC News, Toronto.
The Encampment Support Network also getting heat from the city. They're helping to build these pods, equipped with vents, lights, and carbon monoxide detectors. They say they recently found these notes from the city on the pods in Moss Park, stating they're unsafe and need to be removed immediately.
They're perfectly safe to sleep in, and they're quite warm. What's safer, sleeping on a park bench while it's minus 25?
There's nothing reasonable at this point about the situation we're in, and our consideration is solely around people's warmth and safety and ability to kind of keep alive out here. And I think at this point we're standing behind the idea that these are a relatively safe, warm option.
The volunteer network says they have no plans to get rid of the pods. The Michigan Republican Party and the U.S. National Republican Committee are calling for a 2-week delay in certifying the state's election results. The move comes as Donald Trump continues to deny the outcome of the election. More on that coming up. Stay with us. The Red Cross is sending much-needed relief from its Mississauga warehouse to Honduras, an area devastated by back-to-back hurricanes.
So we have a fully standalone clinic that we're sending. It can stand alone and self-sustain for 4 months. So what that means is it has different modules to it that you would see in a regular hospital.
Medicine and healthcare providers will also be sent to help run the facility. This is the first deployment the Red Cross has made since the COVID-19 pandemic, which means several kits of PPE had to be included in the shipment. Tens of thousands in Honduras have been displaced after the region was hit by Hurricane Eta earlier this month, and then days later, Hurricane Iota. Donald Trump is pushing ahead with efforts to overturn results from the U.S. presidential election. Today, the Michigan Republican Party and the National Republican Party issued a call to delay the certification of results in that state. As Stephen D'Souza reports, this latest episode in the post-election turmoil came as COVID-19 cases hit another bleak milestone.
Is that what you were there discussing? Did you discuss the election at all?
For the second day in a row, Republican state lawmakers from Michigan ignored questions about why they met face-to-face with the president amidst Donald Trump's ongoing quest to overturn his overwhelming election defeat. Despite saying they've not seen any information that would change the election's outcome, today Michigan's Republican Party and the Republican National Committee called to delay certifying the state's vote for 2 weeks. Meanwhile, reports suggest Trump may next invite Pennsylvania state officials to the White House. The state's Democratic lieutenant governor says have at it.
They can clap their Tinkerbell all they want. They can go visit the White House, but it's not going to change the music.
Legal experts and judges say Trump's team has shown little evidence to overturn votes in the two states.
Unless there's some enchanted little village of 90,000 Trump voters that we may have missed over the last 2 weeks since the election. You know, this is ball game in Pennsylvania.
The Democratic crisis in the U.S. is eclipsed only by the health crisis. The country reached 12 million coronavirus cases today, the rate of new infections rising faster than at any time in the pandemic. That's left hospitals like this one in Texas overwhelmed.
It's a prayer. It's inevitable and we know what's going to happen, but the probability of it being a good outcome is very, very low.
This week, many are choosing to travel for Thanksgiving, despite a CDC warning telling people to stay home.
I have a mask inside and hand sanitizer. Just wash your hands.
I'm probably going to get tested again once I get back, so to make sure I'm good.
News of vaccines is providing hope, but healthcare workers worry the last stretch before the finish line may be the most challenging.
The real front line is on the streets, in the grocery stores. Wash your hands, wear your mask, stay away. Wearing a mask is better than having a tube down your throat, I promise.
Stephen D'Souza, CBC News, New York.
One of the Toronto Raptors' top free agents is staying with the North. The Raptors have re-signed free agent point guard Fred VanVleet to a 4-year, $85 million deal. VanVleet was the top point guard on the market and drew interest from several teams. With VanVleet secured, the Raptors can now turn their focus towards re-signing another key player, Serge Ibaka. Boy, Christina, just doing tomorrow's forecast was a lot.
Absolutely. A little bit messy tomorrow, Marivelle, but the good news is overnight it is going to dissipate. So let's take a look at our Sunday morning. We are waking up to some of that mixing, 2 degrees for Toronto, feeling like 2 below 0. So as I mentioned, that moisture is not going to last overnight Sunday. It's going to start to depart in the greater Toronto area overnight, changing over to rain for Highway 401 and then pushing north. That's where that snow is really going to start to lift. Take a look at your Monday. Dry skies for Toronto, 4 degrees. We're still dealing with that activity west. So Guelph, Kitchener, Orangeville, you're still going to be dealing with that activity for your Monday. Overnight, Toronto still remaining dry, but we're still seeing that activity in Newmarket as well as Barrie. So prepare yourself for that mixing. Tuesday, pretty much dry across the board, but it is starting to feel a little bit cooler. Toronto right at the freezing mark. Let's take a look at our next 7 days. So this is what we need to prepare ourselves for. Sunday, a lot of that mixing. Monday, clear skies as well as Tuesday, it gets a lot colder. And then Wednesday, Thursday, we are looking at the return of that activity. By the time Friday rolls around, 9 degrees, a lot of cloud cover. But Saturday, we have something to look forward to next weekend, 7 degrees, plenty of sunshine there. Now in Barrie, as I mentioned, we're still going to be dealing with that activity Sunday, overnight into your Monday, dry for Tuesday. That activity returns for your Wednesday. And I'll see you all again tomorrow evening.
Okay, perfect. Thanks, Christina.
Thanks, Marivelle.
And that is our show for you tonight. Thank you so much for watching. We want to make sure that you all stay safe out there with that mixed weather picture that we're going to see on Sunday. In the meantime, enjoy yourselves this evening. Have a great night, everyone.